Today on the Paul Harrell program, we're sitting down with Colonel Conrad Reynolds, and we're going to talk about what's going on in Arkansas, paper ballots. The state of Arkansas indicted Colonel Conrad Reynolds recently. He was at the courthouse Wednesday. The Paul Harrell program starts right now. We're going to talk about it.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us. My co-host, Rob Spencer, he's traveling right now, so he is not with us, but I am joined by Colonel Conrad Reynolds and Mr. Will Huff.
Hello.
And Colonel, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Really do appreciate it. You made the drive up from Central Arkansas to here.
From Conway all the way up.
Yeah, so we really do appreciate it. What can you tell us about everything that's gone on? I mean, how did you first find out that you had been indicted? And I know there's a lot of other, events that have led up to this. And this is a national outrage. I want to be clear here. Like, this is a national story because you have been working on election integrity, not just in the state of Arkansas, not just in Searcy County or Independence County, but at the federal level in D.C.
Correct.
And so you have a lot of friends. General Michael Flynn is outraged by this. People like Roger Stone, people like Ann Vandersteel, they're outraged by this. So what can you tell us? How did we get where we are right now, Colonel?
Well, it's a long story, but what people need to understand is that this is lawfare right here in the little state of Arkansas. And it's really unbelievable. I was shocked, actually, when I got the call. And they said, look, we're going to arrest you on this charge. Basically, it's a charge of, for all better purposes, it's for loitering, for being somewhere where you're not supposed to be, too close to a door. And basically, that is what they said that in the election of last year on November 5th, almost a year ago, that I was too close to a door, and because of that, they were going to arrest me, and that they were doing me a favor and said I could go up to Batesville where the crime, quote, what the alleged crime was committed, and I could go back up there, and they would arrange for me to turn myself in, which they did for Wednesday morning at 9:00. I was supposed to surrender myself to the sheriff's office, where they then would book me, and then I would leave. It was this is basically, folks, and what they're trying to do is punishment by process. They just want to punish me because we did something that they don't like. The establishment does not want paper ballots in Arkansas. They want machines. They've made it very clear. If you don't believe me, go to the Capitol and ask any legislator what their stance is. You will not find one, not one, that will be for paper ballots, which is absolutely ironic when you know that 63% of all Arkansans, based upon a poll done by Rasmussen, 63% of the people in Arkansas don't trust machines and want paper ballots. 73% of Republicans don't want machines, and they want paper ballots, hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. But no representative in our capital, to include our constitutional officers, our governor on down, want paper ballots. It is almost, they get angry. They get visibly angry at you if you even bring up the topic. And people need to ask themselves, why is that? Why are they doing that? Well, our effort began a while ago, and I think that and I'll try to make it short, but it's important to have the full context of what's happening with lawfare from the government of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders' administration, and what they're doing to the grassroots people here in Arkansas. And it goes into all different areas, but I'll just talk about ours and what we were trying to do. We realized there's a problem with the machines, and anybody who actually studies this for any length of time, a couple of hours worth of studying on the internet, and you'll find out there's a problem here. So we decided we would look at it and that we would try to change it. And one way to do it was a statewide referendum, to go get a statewide referendum, get enough signatures, and get it on the ballot. That was one way. Well, we looked at doing that, and we went ahead and submitted the paperwork. And then in the Arkansas, they changed the laws where the Attorney General now has incredible power that he didn't have before. A lot of the power is due to David Ray, who is a representative in Little Rock. We call him Rico.
Yeah, so I like to call him David Rico Ray because there's a lot of allegations right now flying and an ethics.
Well, yeah, you're talking about there was an ethics complaint.
There's an ethics investigation going on right now for who I like to call David Rico Ray. And, Rico in Spanish means rich in two different ways. Rich as in money, but also rich as in that's rich of somebody to do that. And so for the people to come after Conrad Reynolds, they're rich while they're under their own ethics investigation. So
it's really crazy. And so what happened is that Mr. Rico Ray led the effort on several legislative bills that made the Attorney General much more powerful than he was in the past. So we were trying to get this statewide referendum, and they kept turning us down on title. And they did not want this to go through. They did everything they could to make sure that we were never able to get that approved. And all they do is run out the clock to where it's almost impossible to get 90,000 signatures in the allotted time.
So why do you think that is? Real quick, why I can ask you, why are people still so sold on the voting machines? Why do they trust the technology when so many of not just Arkansans but Americans? We heard the allegations. I mean, we have news even yesterday where Smartmatic has now been indicted. Okay, so now you have Newsmax for bribery.
Yes.
You have Newsmax and Fox News that paid a settlement to Smartmatic, I believe, and now they've been indicted, and maybe there's more shoes to drop there. Then you have Dominion, which was just sold a week before the news of this indictment. But all of that doesn't really, all of that, we could even push that aside and just say we were all alive, alert, awake in 2020. We all saw what happened, and we've been, whether it was the mail-in ballots or whether it was the machines, the machines, Conrad, that were not supposed to be able to connect to the internet, and then some guy was able to connect them to the internet in an Arizona hearing, for public for all to see. So why the resistance? Does it come down to, like everything else, is it about the money? Why would we not want to at least look at this? Why are they so stuck on the computers?
Well, that's the $64,000 question, or $1 million question maybe, or $1 billion question. We don't know. But what we do know is this, is that all the experts and everybody that I've interviewed for the correct process in order to have an election, every cybersecurity expert, all the computer scientists from Andrew Appel, PhD in Princeton University, they've been screaming about this for 20 years, but nobody wants to listen to them because the machine companies have a tremendous amount of power, not just in the states, but also on Capitol Hill. They've been able to capture the state legislators, but it's also on Capitol Hill. They're very reluctant to go against these voting machine companies. But what we saw here, why wouldn't they go to a paper ballot? It is cheaper. It's not the paper ballot of 40 years ago. It's a paper ballot that you can have that is marked, that has security features on it. If you have chain of custody, we've got phones, we've got cameras, we've got everything to make a very safe election, and it's cheaper. So why wouldn't they want to do that? And no one can tell me that. The things that they say typically is the talking points from the machine companies.
Yeah.
We do a logic and accuracy test. It's easier. It's faster. It's 100% accurate. You can never be accurate with hand counts. Hand counts are going to bankrupt your county. We heard it over and over again. So to try to tell people, there were basically three ways in Arkansas in order to change the system to paper ballots. There's three ways. The first is a statewide referendum. This is provided the Secretary of State doesn't do it, right? But three ways other than that. So you can do a statewide referendum, and you can get it changed and put it in the Constitution. That's one. We tried that. As soon as we tried that, we kept getting stopped. They have the power, and they've got the laws in place to keep you from being able to do that. So we ran up against a brick wall. Next way is you can go to the counties and go to the JPs, the quorum courts. We have 75 counties. You can go to the quorum court and plead your case and tell the JPs this is what you can do. And if a majority of your JPs say, we want to go to paper ballots, they do a binding resolution, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we said, hey, that's a great deal. Let's do it. So we went to about 7 or 8 counties. This JP's going, I didn't know we could do it. Yeah, we want it. We want that, right? The first county was Cleveland County in January of 2023. They said, yep, we want it. We want to change it, and we want to go to paper ballots. They did. As soon as they did, immediately the state legislature, which is in January of 23, right? They just started. They started writing bills to punish any county that went to paper ballots. This is a Republican legislature led by Kim Hammer and David Ray. They wrote laws to make it harder and almost to where the counties wouldn't want to do it. They said, we're not paying for it. You're going to pay for your own paper. They made it clear, we don't want this, folks. If you do this, you're going to be on the opposite side of us.
So I'm familiar with this. Did Cleburne County then reverse? Did the quorum court then come back and say, okay, we're going to reverse this. We don't want to do it anymore?
Well, there were two things that happened there. And real quickly, one was that they had written the resolution and there was one sentence that needed to be taken out because it said something about the sheriffs, basically escorting the ballots from point A to point B, and somehow that was a legal problem. You couldn't do that. So they had to rescind that one, take that part out. The county attorney for them said, I'm not writing any new resolution. So, sorry, you have to write it yourself. And the people there, the JPs, got the message loud and clear because they said, you're the laughing stock in Little Rock. If you do this, so they got a lot of pressure. And they got pressure from the AAC, the Association of Arkansas Counties, as well. And they said, it's just too much for us. We'll rescind it. So that's what they did. They rescinded it, and they never came back for another vote. Go on to the other counties that we've been talking to. Every other county backed out. Once they saw that, they go, oh, it's too hot a potato, and the JPs did not want to be involved. A lot of the JPs were threatened. If you do this, guess what? We're going to primary you. You're not going to get any money for your next election. So a lot of them said, I'm just not going to deal with it, except for one county. That was Searcy County. And Searcy County said, hold on a second. Why is it that Little Rock is pushing so hard for us not to do it? So there's got to be something here. And so they said, we're going to do our own study, and we're going to do our own town hall, which they did. And their study said that it would be cheaper than machines. Their study said that they could actually get it done almost as fast. So they said, why not do it if it's going to be cheaper and the same amount of time? So they voted for it. But before they voted, they got tremendous pressure from the AAC. So the AAC, Association of Arkansas Counties, said, we will not help you write any grant for your bridges, for federal grant, for federal money, or your roads, right? Because the AAC has a host of lawyers there.
Wow.
And this is what they do.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I just think that's tyranny. I mean, it's bullying, and you're trying to prevent the people from getting what they want by essentially financial blackmail.
It's exactly what was happening. And so the people in Searcy County said, you know what? We don't like being blackmailed. We're going to take a vote. And the JPs voted for it to have a paper ballot election for the starting in 2024, the primary in 2024. And they said, we're gonna do this. Well, guess what? How much help they got from John Thurston, from the Secretary of State? Zero. He said, you're on your own. Y'all wanted to do it, you're on your own. We're not going to help you. Okay? And so they decided they were working to make a system to get it to work right. They did a fantastic job for getting no help from anybody. And they did a really good primary. They had a couple of small glitches. But there were people from the Secretary or State Board of Election commissioners that was there monitoring their election, and the three commissioners in Searcy County thought they were there to help. They go, great, we're glad to have you. If you see anything we're doing wrong, let us know, and we'll fix it. And apparently there was one case where they had a calculator, but it doesn't have a paper, receipt. So they didn't know. They were watching, the people from the State Board of Election Commissioners were watching them, didn't correct them, let them do it anyway. They did their thing. Later on came out with a report saying that was one of the problems, along with several other problems. So they hauled these three commissioners in June of 2023 down and just berated them. It was horrible. These are some of the best people you ever meet in your life, and they are trying to do the best they can for their county. They're trying to save them money, which, by the way, they did. So they said, you know what? We're not going to be discouraged. Okay, we're going to do the general election, and we're going to do it even better. We're going to make sure these things that we didn't know, now we know. We will fix all of that. And they did. And guess what they got? 100% accuracy on their hand count. Cheaper, like 20% cheaper or whatever it was than the machine. So they proved them wrong. The talking points that were being pushed by the establishment. It's going to bankrupt your county. You're never going to be able to do an accurate hand count. It's going to take too long. All of that hogwash. They were able to prove that that was not true. They did a great job. One of the things that they wanted was to have full transparency for the people in their county. And they wanted to have a way so that the people could kind of see them counting but not leaning over their shoulder. So we, AVI, my organization, which is a nonprofit, 501c4, we said we can rent you for a day on a daily rate, some TVs and some cheap cameras that would be over the ballot. So when the person's counting it, anybody in the back could see the ballot and hear it.
Yeah, and you can live stream it.
And you can live stream it. You can record it. That's what they did. They recorded it. So it's complete transparency, 100, and we 100%. And we told them we would rent it to them for $100 a day.
That was our going rate for anybody.
For anybody.
So anybody who wanted to rent it in any county, it was available. We even helped Maricopa County, Arizona, on their elections and stuff with our method and equipment. So this is something we offer across the board. It wasn't a special deal just for Searcy County.
Okay.
And Searcy County jumped at it because they said, man, this is great. We would love to have that. We said, fine, we'll do that. So we rented that to them. That's what the State Board of Election Commissioners came on them and said, you spent too little. You should have spent more money. Can you? I mean,
that's incredible. That was their argument. They said that you didn't spend enough taxpayer money.
That's right. They said you didn't spend enough because the kind of equipment you had there was worth a lot more than that. So there must be fraud or some kind of quid pro quo. That's what they told them. They said, we are going to kick you out. You're going to be disbanded. For 14 years, you cannot serve in any election.
These were 3 election commissioners that
That's right.
They were going to ban
for 14 years.
14 years.
Because of that.
Oh, my gosh.
And again, Lori, Ken, and LC are some of the best people in the world, and their main focus is to have safe, secure elections that the people of their county could trust. Election commissioners, that's not like a full-time job or something that pays you a lot of money, but they put hundreds and hundreds of hours into running safe, secure elections just for the state of Arkansas to come down on them hard. And they were going to be banned for 14 years under Cole Jester's State Board of Elections organization. And so that state board answers to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State is handpicked by the governor. She appointed Cole Jester to that position. Cole Jester told me, I think they deserve to be banned because it looks like they broke the law in my eyes. And it's like, for what? They say, because they didn't pay enough. They should have spent more money.
This is insane.
It's insane. And I brought up the fact that, we go to D.C. We've been working in D.C. quite a bit over the last 6 or 7 months for election integrity. And one of the things that we learned, or when I go up there, I rent a $60,000 car for less than $100 a day. And so if I can rent a $60,000 car for less than $100 a day, they're griping because these people rented around $6,000 worth of equipment for $100 for a day.
And even in elections, it's often you have to rent a U-Haul truck to take around all of the machines and drop them off. The U-Haul trucks are $59.99 a day, and that's worth a lot more than any of this equipment was. But the other thing, every county gets free locations to hold their elections. That's not the going price or going rate for an average citizen. If you want to rent a community center as an average citizen, there's a daily rate. But they get given that as a gift. That's more of a gift than actually them renting the machine or the cameras.
Yeah, the key here is they were just trying to find something to use as a battering ram
Lawfare.
to beat them up.
And I've been perusing the headlines in preparation for this interview today, and it's funny. I mean, the mainstream media, the articles on this with the mainstream media, all of it are based on these phony presuppositions that hand counted is bad, it's wrong, it's all of the things that you just said. And I just have to say, I've been doing some research. AI is something I'm fascinated with right now, and I'm very worried about it.
Me too.
Incredible. And so I have a very big sense of urgency about what this means for a lot of things. But when it comes to artificial intelligence and manipulating ones and zeros, it's going to be difficult for artificial intelligence to mess with a paper hand-counted ballot.
Impossible.
Flesh and blood, right?
It's impossible.
So, in many ways, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money that want AI to continue to progress the way it is and essentially take over. And I do not trust it. And
nor you shouldn't.
Paper ballots are a remedy for that. Flesh and blood, paper ballots, us, human beings who have souls actually tabulating the votes instead of trusting computers.
Right. And like the wise words of Kamala Harris, Russia can't hack a piece of paper. Those are the words she said back when the Democrats were fighting against the machine companies in 2019. Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar did a whole study about how we can't trust these companies that run our elections because they run on proprietary information or technology, so we can't double check that everything is kosher. Also, they don't let us know who owns the companies. They're owned by like money. What are they called? Funds, like funds, hedge funds that are private though. So they can't tell you who the owners are. So we don't know who owns them. We don't know who writes the code. We don't know what's in the code. And so the Democrats were raising that up before 2020. And again, Kamala Harris said Russia can't hack a piece of paper. But the key to it is the hand counting after. If you run it through a computer, you got to do it like a bank does. If you withdraw a large amount of money, they stick it in a machine, it counts it. What's the next thing they do? They pull it out on the table and they count it by hand in front of you so you see the machine was accurate.
Right.
They don't just trust that the machine was right. And so that's what they need to be doing in elections if you run it through a tabulator.
Well, I'll try to finish up as far as the three ways, the three ways to be able to do it. After Searcy County went ahead and said, yeah, we're going to do it, we said, great. But just about every other county, at least from the JP perspective, we weren't able to make that happen because they all backed out on us. They got scared. They were threatened. Their businesses were threatened. They said, we're just not going to be able to move forward with that. So then the third way that you can change, if you can't do those, the next way is you can do a county ordinance. The county itself can be able to determine, different things in their county, like no dog without a leash. You can have a law there, and if the JPs don't write the law, the people can do a citizen initiative to say that's what we want. They can make that happen. So we said, okay, great, we can do that. So we told several of the people that were all interested. We said, if y'all want to do this, here's how you can do it at your county. You can do a county initiative to go with the signatures. I think it's 7% of what the circuit clerk got in your county for the year before, whatever that number is, and it all depends on population, right? How many people actually voted. So it was different in every county. And we said, if y'all need any help, let us know and we'll see what we can. Now, the county initiative petition process is different in the law than the statewide. The statewide has all kinds of restrictions, no out-of-state people. You can't do this, you can't do that. But the county ride initiative did not have all those restrictions at that time. So basically, it was something that the legislature never thought about. When they were trying to shut off all the avenues, they never really thought about going county to county. And so when the counties came to us and different teams, and Brian Norris up in Independence County said, I've got a lot of people up here who want paper ballots. How do we do this? We said, well, you got to go get signatures. You got to get forms, and this is what you have to do. And you got to go and get so many signatures by this date, and they got to be turned in. And if you get them all certified, you get it on that ballot question on your ballot. And it was the Paper Ballot Initiative 2024, and it lined out what they wanted. All the other counties had the same thing, and we helped them with that wording for that resolution. So they got them all, and all the other counties got turned down, and we can talk about that in a minute, except for Independence County. Well, that one and Cleveland County, right? So Cleveland County will be voting on there sometime next year. But let's focus on Independence County. Independence County got enough signatures. They got fought tooth and nail by the county commissioners in that county, the election coordinator. Nobody wanted it. The people who administer elections did not want it. And so they fought tooth and nail. In fact, they said the ballot title is confusing, so we had to take it to court. And the judge there, Holly Meyer, said, nope, it's not confusing. I can understand what it means. The hand-marked paper ballot in 2024. It's not confusing.
Good for her. Let's take a moment and celebrate judges that
have common sense.
Have common sense and aren't
She had common
political.
sense. And so then guess what? The county, they appealed that to the Supreme Court
of Arkansas.
Shows you how much they did not want this. Supreme Court said, nope, Holly Meyer was right, Judge Meyer's right, and it's going to be on the ballot. So it was on the ballot on November 5th last year. And we know and believe that if they want to, these machines can be manipulated. That's why we're pushing for paper ballots. So we wanted to, one way to circumvent that is to let everybody know you're going to do an exit poll. That you're going to do an exit poll because the exit poll is something they can't manipulate. Because you can ask people, yes, no. They go, no, or yes. 1, 2, 3. That's all you need. People coming out. Not going in, people coming out. That's all you do is you ask them, yes, no. And once you get enough, 150 to 200, you know what the percentage is. And that's what we were doing there at that time. We were exit polling. And the exit poll was very clear. And that is, when we got the numbers, we knew exactly that 63% had voted for it. And we also knew that they weren't going to be able to manipulate it. They couldn't come back and tell us 48% voted and 52 were against, because we knew that wouldn't be true.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. So they're taking this vote to end the machines on machines.
That's correct.
And that's kind of meta. Does that qualify as meta? I don't know.
Yeah, well, and then really, truly, it was a question of how do you want future elections to be conducted starting in 2026? Do you want an election on machines that we have, or do you want to go to a paper ballot? And it listed it all out. And the vast majority of people said 63% said yes, which is exactly what the Rasmussen poll said it would be. And so that's what and they were mad at that. They were mad about that. They were angry that happened. And so now here we are 11 months later, and they decide, you know what? We don't want any other county to do it. And we got to kill the guy who is the face of it, and that's me. And one other thing, once they passed that in November, here we come again with the state legislature getting in session in January. You know what they did?
Well, this is led by David Rico Ray and Kimmy Hammer.
Okay,
they went in and tried to just really take the voice away from the people.
Again, they already did it once. Okay, from the quorum courts. Now they go, we got to stop this. So they came in with new laws in order to make it almost impossible now for any county to do a referendum in their county. The laws that are in place now make it it makes it virtually impossible. And that's what they wanted, to shut this down. So think about that. Why is the government, every time you come up with something, they come in with the full force of government to change it so you can't have a voice? That's what they're doing. And then the last thing was to try to take somebody like me out, and I'll be exonerated. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And what they did is wrong. It's wrong. And I'm telling you what, the people who did it, they're going to wish they'd never done it. Tim, Letitia James Griffin will wish he had never done this. And I think you. Well,
yeah. So you were. I guess I want to talk a little bit about the Independence County, the election workers, the infrastructure there, the people there. You said that they did not want it. They fought it, right? They took it to a judge, and then they appealed it to the Arkansas Supreme Court. They still lost, and then they lost at the ballot box. So it said that in the affidavit that the Arkansas Election Commission got a complaint from an election worker that presumably didn't like you. I'm putting two and two together.
I can't get into the details about it.
Here's what I can tell you. The two of the people named in the warrants that Letitia James, Tim Griffin issued, they both were vocally against paper ballots in the newspaper and at Kiwanis Club. They were both vocally. So that's two of the three people who were mentioned by Letitia James' office. They actually were out telling people that paper ballots are bad, machines are good. The other person, I think, is listed probably just a witness who was a desk worker that said they saw something within 30 feet or 100 feet of the door or something. So you're correct. The people who are named in these complaints are anti-paper ballot. And here's something I do know. Yesterday, there was training for election commissioners, and a question was asked, what happens if somebody is actively campaigning, not exit polling, campaigning within 100 feet? The State Board of Election Commissioners told them in training, you ask them to move back. They said, okay, what happens if they move back? Do we file any complaints? They said, no, we just want them to move back.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, it does look petty. I mean,
it's targeted. It's targeted.
It does. I mean, I don't think there's any way around it. That is certainly how it looks. And I would just, this, more people have got to know about this. As I mentioned earlier, it's a national outrage. Now, before I want to get into Attorney General Tim Griffin's statements, he's got two statements right now. One on legendary radio host Dave Ellswick's show, and then his official press release on it. But before I do that,
can I give you a timeline on that a little bit too?
Yeah, 1 second. Before I do that, my question is, because I don't want to run out of time. We're going to get to it. We're half an hour in.
Okay.
You were born and raised, or you went to Batesville High School, which is
correct.
in Independence County.
That's right.
Okay, so you
played football there.
You're an Arkansas guy. You get this news. I've been indicted. I've got to go to my hometown, and I've got to go through this process and plead not guilty, be arraigned, or whatever the terminology is. Booked. You got to go. You got to get book Colonel Conrad Reynolds, an American hero. You're about to be inducted into what is it?
The Arkansas Military Veterans Hall of Fame.
Arkansas Military Veterans Hall of Fame. And I just have to say, how I want to ask, how was the booking process? These people obviously know who you are.
Well, I will tell you that I cannot have enough good words to say about the sheriff's office, the law enforcement people. Super nice, super nice. They didn't want to have anything to do with this. This is my opinion. They really didn't want to have anything to do with the people in Little Rock coming up there and telling them what they have to do. And they were super nice and no problems. In fact, I didn't get a mugshot. No mugshot. No handcuffs, no searching, no nothing. They just did my fingerprints. And we had a good talk about some of the people that I knew who were still in Batesville from the time that I had been there. It was not a bad experience.
Right.
As bookings go.
No, I mean, I kind of figure that they actually really like you and they don't like that.
And
they're being dragged into this.
That's right. And it's not only that. My dad was a state police criminal investigator in Batesville and it had 9 counties. My son is a D.C. detective in Washington, D.C. I mean, the idea that I would have in me any inclination to break the law is absolutely nuts.
Well, and to be clear, they're charging you with a misdemeanor. Now, let's actually get to that, okay? Let's get to – you wanted to say something about this clip we're about to play.
No, I was just going to talk about the timeline first. So we got a call from the lawyers in the middle of the week that Tim Griffin's office was going to press charges. And I'm assuming that Letitia James Griffin thought Colonel Reynolds would cower down and try to keep this hidden. I think they probably had a press conference scheduled for next week, for the next following week, similar to when they announced that 3 people were arrested for illegally voting. And Conrad said, you know what? I'm not going to sit back and let them bully me and silence me. So we put out a press release. And, man, was that picked up, and it went nationwide. People couldn't believe that Conrad was going to be arrested. So then the next day, or it might have been later in the same afternoon, it seems like the AG had a hurriedly put together press release that came out to kind of counter our press release that was gaining traction and people calling the AG asking them, why are you arresting Colonel Reynolds?
Wow.
Because people see it for what it is. If Colonel Reynolds wasn't the name on it, the AG's office wouldn't be prosecuting a misdemeanor.
Okay. Well, to be fair to Attorney General Griffin, that's not exactly what he said here on Dave Ellswick's radio show. We have that clip, and I am going to play it right now. Let me find it. Here is, what was this, a couple of days ago?
This was this morning.
This was this morning. Okay, so this morning, Tim Griffin said this.
The 800-pound gorilla that everybody wants you to talk about, and that's what's going on with Colonel Conrad Reynolds. I know you can't litigate the case on the air, so I won't ask you to, but I will ask you to explain what's going on.
Sure. Well, that case is a case that we did not seek, we did not ask for. It's a case that was referred to my office. Excuse me for a second. Referred to my office by the State Board of Election Commissioners and went directly the way any other case would to my career prosecutors, career investigators. It would have been no different if the name was John Smith or Susie Johnson. And, I think the affidavits, which are public, you could take a look at those. Think you've seen those. They tell you about all I can say about the case. I will tell you this definitively: 99% of what I have seen or what people have said to me about this case is false.
Okay.
I mean, it's just completely. Most of the people who have reached out to me had no idea the details that are in the affidavit. And one thing I can say definitively, most of what I saw in the public discussion was about electioneering and whether it was an exit poll and whether an exit poll was this or that. Won't get into all that, but this case doesn't involve, the charges don't involve electioneering. So that was a red herring. That's like you asking me, what's better, hamburger or a chicken sandwich? And I start talking about mangoes. I mean, it had nothing to do with the charges. So I really can't say more than that. But look, I'm not new to your show. I'm not new to Arkansans. I have served for a long time, and people have gotten to know me. And I've always been fair, and I'm the same guy. And that's all I can say.
Okay. All right. So can you tell us when you think this will come up and the court proceedings will start?
I don't know. But as it develops, I guarantee you Dave Ellswick will have the latest and greatest.
So a couple of things there. That's what Tim said this morning on the Dave Ellswick Show. That's who that was. Shout out to Dave Ellswick if you're listening. The interesting thing here that I take away from that is he said this is not about electioneering, not about exit polls. That's what he's heard, but that's a red herring, right? That's like talking about mango versus a chicken sandwich or a hamburger. The problem comes with this statement from his website, the Attorney General of the State of Arkansas. This headline, Griffin says, Attorney General Tim Griffin issued the following statement regarding warrants his office has obtained against Colonel Conrad Reynolds and Dustin Black on a misdemeanor charges of violating Arkansas election laws. Okay? Quote, this case was referred to my office by the State Board of Election Commissioners. Okay, so far so good. That's what he said in his statement. After the board received it from a local election official, my career law enforcement officers conducted their investigation based solely on the facts, and it was done by the book. Charges were filed by Assistant Attorney General Jenna Sherrill, who was appointed as a special prosecutor by the circuit court in this case. And then they cite Arkansas Code 7-1-103 prohibits electioneering in the building or within 100 feet of the primary exterior entrance used by voters in which voting is taking place or with persons standing in line to vote. That same statute also makes it unlawful for a person to enter or remain within a 100-foot area unless the person is entering or leaving the building for lawful purposes where voting is taking place. The evidence in this case includes video of both men conducting exit polling. Again, exit polling. Again, it's cited in his own statement, approximately 30 feet from the polling site. This case and the misdemeanor warrants we obtain are about one thing: following the law. The subjects of our investigation were treated no differently than any subject of other investigations we've conducted. Now, I am, after listening to his statement this morning and reading the statement, again, both his statements, both attributed to him officially, I'm very confused. And because he says it's a red herring that it was about electioneering
or exit
polls, and then they literally cite electioneering and exit polling as why you have been
I will go one
charged.
step further. It was a complete lie. It was a complete lie on Dave Ellswick's show. He had an opportunity to be truthful, but he knows he's gotten a lot of pressure on him. I bet he may not have even read his own statement, his press release that they put out. Maybe not. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But if he did, a real problem. It's a real problem.
And in his statement, he seems to be blaming other people for this happening. It was thrown in our lap, and it went to someone else. They did this. They did that.
You know, as a retired Army colonel, and I have led units in Afghanistan, Iraq, a brigade commander. That's if you're a leader, you take responsibility for what your people do, and his people did certain things. It seems to me he's trying to distance himself. I'm not really the guy calling the shots here. I'm just happen to be in the office, and they're moving forward, and I have nothing to do with it. I don't believe that for a second, and I think that he has, because I know Tim Griffin. He would be on this every little T that's crossed or I that's dotted. The fact that he's acting like he's not tells me that he's gotten so much pressure, he's trying to find a way to weasel out. But the fact that, hey, why don't you come up to, one of the attorneys said, come on up to Independence County, Tim, and you prosecute the case. But he won't do it. He will not do it.
So I know Tim Griffin. You know, I've interacted with him a lot over my career. I generally, like him as a person, and he's always, been nice to me. He may not be so friendly after this particular interview, but what you have laid out, Colonel, are the facts of this paper ballot initiatives going across the state. There's clearly an allergy going on. There's clearly, at the very least, there's an allergy to this, and I'm disturbed by it. I'm going to be honest. And I'm sure with some of these, these ballot initiatives or these ballot reforms, there might have been other reasons why you. I know you mentioned David Ray's efforts to change the ballot process in the county. I know he's run. I think he's run pieces of that legislation before, then to try to stop tax increases and stuff on odd election years and that sort of thing. But I'm not even on camera right now. That's my fault. That's my production fault.
That's okay.
But I will say, generally speaking, this does not look good. I just reiterate, this does not look good at all.
And nationwide, people see this for what it is.
There's an outrage nationwide.
There's General Flynn chiming in, Sidney Powell,
Let's
Roger Stone. Roger Stone sent me a message. It said, "We are all Conrad Reynolds."
I saw that. I've seen other people say that. Let's read this. General Michael Flynn, a guy that was framed for treason, just like Donald Trump was framed for treason.
He understands lawfare.
He definitely understands lawfare.
So does Sidney Powell.
So does Sidney Powell, who also is in your corner. And then obviously
Kerry Lake.
They withheld exculpatory evidence in General Flynn's case, right? I mean, it's insane. And let's hope that they don't do that in this situation. Let's talk about that here in a minute. General Michael Flynn, this is absolutely insane. And if the President of the United States, at real Donald Trump, was aware of this, I cannot fathom that he would support this level of tyranny coming from a state that voted overwhelmingly for him. This is a political persecution in the government of Arkansas. Sarah Huckabee Sanders needs to weigh in immediately. If she believes she has a political future, this act of lawfare against one of her citizens will not help her in the future. At Susie Wiles, please ensure the POTUS is aware. Very astute of Michael Flynn to tag Susie Wiles, who I feel like just kind of tries to keep Donald Trump in a pill, like in a capsule.
She knows us.
Okay.
Yes, she does.
Okay. Well, good. So you guys have been to the White House working on election integrity, or
We've been working with people who are staffed at the White House who are in charge of the future of elections in the United States of America.
Okay.
And we're working more on the policy and implementation side. Colonel Reynolds wants to look at how elections are run and our states complying, and so we're working in that field up there with staff from the White House, and we've talked to people directly about what's going on, and we've actually had a roundtable. Colonel Reynolds talked to the president at Mar-a-Lago in 2023. We've gone through what the president wants in elections, and we're working to make sure that happens, that he gets his mandate for the hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. And
that's very important. And one other thing I'd like to bring up, and that is nobody. I wish somebody would ask Tim Griffin. I wish Dave had asked or thought about to ask. How many other people have ever been charged for this? Ever. Ever.
A great question.
In the history of Arkansas. You know what the answer is? Zero.
Uh-huh.
No, nobody.
Okay. Yeah.
So that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah,
no one's ever been charged with it, but yet they're going to have to come after me for something that no one has ever been charged for. So if that doesn't tell you something, folks, they are lying and it's really just disheartening because, look, in my military, like I say, when we were promoted, you promote leaders, promote people who do the right thing and tell the truth. There's a lot of people who have been promoted, and Mr. Griffin is one of them, apparently, because he's in the National Guard, and he has been promoted, most of them under the Obama administration. A lot of those people got through, and a lot of those people don't lead. They don't take responsibility. They don't do the right thing sometimes. And I think this is part of it. And it really hurts me as a military officer to look at another guy who says he's a colonel to say, you cannot be honest and forthright. You have to do this. It really does bother me as a military guy. And I think that people need to understand a lot of times people's ambitions overcome their common sense. And they overcome what they should be doing, the right thing. There's a time, we say in the military, there's a time to fall on your sword. And a lot of times you fall on your sword when you know that people are telling you to do the wrong thing, and you can't go along with it. You got to do the right thing, no matter what. And that takes courage and character. And that's I'm having a problem with that right now with him.
I can understand that. Let me ask you this: as somebody who I was telling you guys this off air, as somebody who fought former Governor Asa Hutchinson almost his entire 2 terms in office and called out all of his BS, quite frankly. Sarah Huckabee Sanders on the social issues is so much better and more outspoken, and I've considered that. That alone is so much better than Asa was, as somebody who was on the radio every single day calling out too much criticism, calling out Asa and everything else. But in terms of this specific situation, is there any hope out there that Sarah Sanders would get involved here and shut this down?
It's not just this situation. She's remained silent whenever the president has called her out. He called her out in February. Said, "Hey, Sarah."
What did he say?
He said at the governor's meeting that they had, when he called out, by the way, if you'll remember, the governor from Maine.
I remember that,
for the Title IX.
Yeah,
in that same meeting, President Trump talked and said, "Hey, we need to go to paper ballots. We need to, your Republican governors need to do this." Sarah, he looked right at her.
He said that by name, Sarah by name.
Sarah by name. She's sitting right in front of him, And so, and then she was asked about that at CPAC the next day and said, "Hey," they asked her, "What do people in Arkansas want?" And someone yelled out, "Paper ballots." And she kind of smiled and she said, "Yeah, we're working on it." They have no intention of doing it. In fact, she signed every law that Kim Hammer and David Rico Ray put together to silence our voice, to keep us from having paper ballots. She signed every one of those bills, every one of them. So she is not listening to the president. She's not listening to his mandate. She's not listening to what he's asking. In fact, he sent out a tweet I think it was sometime mid-August, and on his Truth Social, and he said very clearly, "We are going to lead the effort in the Republican Party." He said, "I'm going to lead it," the president, "to get rid of paper ballots. We cannot have mail-out ballots.
Yep.
And we need to go to a hand-marked paper ballot that's hand-counted.
And same-day voting.
And that's what he said. Have you seen one Republican governor come up and say, I'm with you, Mr. President?
Not to my knowledge.
Not one.
But you know what? In that same vein, you have this tweet here by Michael Flint. I want you to read the Colonel's post under that. This is what has been going on in the Arkansas Republican sphere for the last pretty much year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, so this is your reaction to being indicted, right? This is you had this big press conference in Independence County. By the way, I watched it. It was really good. So this is your tweet, and I'll read it. You say the Arkansas Republican Party is wielding government power to preserve its grip on the state, punishing dissenters and silencing citizens who dare to challenge their control. Arkansas Secretary of State candidate Brian Lee Norris put it well. Are we being ruled or represented? You say, here I'm highlighting their recent efforts to entrench power and crush opposition. You say, denying voter representation to maintain control. You say Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is refusing to call special elections for 2 vacant seats, one in Senate District 26 and one in State House District 70 until June of 2026. Now, I will just say I knew Senator Stubblefield very well. I worked with him very well. I cannot imagine he would be for this long of a delay.
No.
And I know it's being challenged in court, and the argument from Tim Griffin I've read is
sovereign immunity.
Sovereign immunity.
Letitia said.
There's nothing that you can do. So I totally agree with you. I think it's ridiculous that they would not have the election sooner.
And what makes it more ridiculous is her trying to force the prison into that district.
Into Franklin
and now they
Right.
won't have any representation in the Senate.
Yeah, I know, because he was against the prison in that location. The late Senator Gary Stubblefield. Number 2, ethics scandals. Attorney General Letitia James, AG Tim Griffin, you say, and State Rep David Ray are under an ethics commission scrutiny for alleged corruption that Griffin had paid Ray over $130,000 during legislative sessions while Ray pushed bills advocating for the AG's office. PACs like Jobs and Growth PAC, tied to both, face accusations of shady fund distributions suggesting a system rigged to protect loyalists and punish outsiders with the weight of the investigations or lack thereof. By the way, this was a tweet that was retweeted by General Michael Flynn. Just throwing that out there. Number 3, you say crushing transparency and citizen voices. David Ray's also spearheading efforts to gut Arkansas's FOIA, which was or is it still the best in the nation? At one point was the best Freedom of Information Act in the nation.
It was the envy of all.
I was very much on the sidelines during that whole debate. That was like 2 sessions ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it's horrible what they're trying to do. That is the one tool that the citizens have to keep check on their government.
Yeah.
And when you try to gut that tells you there's a problem.
Yeah.
That tells you it's a problem. And
Yeah.
so you should definitely, anyway, we want to highlight that, but that needs to be known.
Then this is outrageous, too. We've got 7 minutes left. Pricing out challengers to preserve power. Under Chairman Joseph Wood, the chairman of the Arkansas GOP, they've hiked the 2026 candidate filing fees, some as high as $30,000 for congressional races.
We were corrected that it's $40,000 to run as a Republican for governor or senator.
Yeah,
$40,000 just to have the privilege of getting on the ballot.
They've almost tripled the prior amounts.
Yeah.
So it's a Republican poll tax to basically keep because we are a red state. The primary is the general election. Number 5, purging dissenters with party authority, led by Joseph Wood. The ARGOP is banning Republicans, you say, who speak out, and they have banned them. I'm just saying these are your words.
You're
in 2024,
Yep, that's right.
They dissolved the Saline County GOP committee, banning some leaders of over 20 years over disputes. In Craighead County, which is my county, right here where we are right now broadcasting, duly elected officials were ousted from committee roles in May of 2025.
Barry Eggers being one of the main ones.
These purges use party power to punish conservatives across the state who resist the establishment agenda. Now, I will say on that issue, I have not only seen this in Arkansas, and I've been looking at it for far. I haven't been covering it, but I've seen it in the GOP circles of places like Michigan,
South Carolina.
South Carolina, and the overall conclusion that I've come to is that these grassroots activists that have taken the initiative to get involved in their local county committees have made the mistake of assuming that the Republican Party belongs to them, when in fact the donor class says no, it belongs to the RNC, and that is the truth, and that's what we're fighting.
And I think the real thing is the grassroots made the mistake of thinking the GOP elites care about their wishes and will.
Yes.
They don't care in any way.
Yes.
Anyway,
And we saw that at the state convention last year. They don't care. And that's why they just say that's null and void.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care if you want closed primaries. Think about this for a second. Why is it that in Arkansas we can't get closed primaries? Why must we rely upon the Democrats to pick our standard bearer for November?
When we know the primary is the real election.
Yeah. And with as radical as the left is now, they are more radical now than ever. The idea that they wouldn't go vote in a Republican primary to sabotage when they're willing to murder people in public is, we should have a closed primary yesterday.
But I'm just going to say, I'm glad there's an open primary this year because I want every single person to choose the Republican ballot and vote out every single incumbent that is in this primary. If we want to get hold of this, get rid of this grip of power we're going to have to shake it up and break it up. And I think every current person in office needs to go because none of them have stood up for Colonel Reynolds. None of them have stood up and said what you're doing to Searcy County is wrong. None of them have stood up and said, I'm tired of seeing what you guys are doing. We're not going to sit here and let you have this power trip. We're going to get in the way. None of them have done it. So in my book, none of them are for us. Every single incumbent should be voted out this election.
I'm going to tell you this, too. I've had people call me, and I've got friends down at the legislature who were there. And they've called me and they said, I'll never admit I ever called you. But I'm telling you, what they did to those people in Searcy County was wrong, and we all do it. But we can't say anything about it because if we do, then we're not going to be able to get reelected. They're going to pull our money. They're going to ruin our businesses, and therefore we are kind of coward to stay quiet. And I said, don't even call me if that's what you're going to tell me. If you don't have the guts to stand up. And I said, I know there's 3 or 4 of you. Stand up and get in front of the Capitol and say it. But they won't do it. There's a lot of power, and you can say this is politics, but I don't think so. This is between right and wrong, and really good and evil. I mean,
after hearing this story, even if I was for the machines and against the paper ballots, it would make me want to be for paper ballots because there's obviously an organized effort.
There's a RICO effort.
There's a RICO effort.
Yeah, trying to suppress the will of the people, and that's what this is about.
And it's across agencies, and it's the power of the state government led by the Republican Party and the Association of Arkansas Counties putting the pressure to make sure we never have the will of the people actually honored. We're not being represented, like Brian Norris said. We're being ruled.
And it's about something that is so crucial to who we pick as our elected leaders. It is very crucial. Elections are so important. We've become a third world country. We're a third world country if we can't get this right. And that's why I'm fighting for it, and I'm not going to roll over on it. I'm going to fight it.
We've got 2 minutes, and this is a loaded question.
Yeah.
But Venezuela, did they have anything to do with hacking our elections? And if so, does Donald Trump know it? And if so, is that one of the reasons why we may be about to bomb Venezuela?
I think there's a lot of reasons why we're going to go and take over and get rid of the current narco regime in Venezuela, and we will, and the rightful regime will be in there very shortly.
But
I believe
if you read the book "Stolen Elections" by Ralph Pizzullo, you will see that the Venezuelans wrote the code that is in almost all of these machines, and the people who wrote this code and started these machine companies have all spread out across every election machine company. So you have Venezuelans in top spots at all of the election machine companies, and Venezuela wrote the codes, and we were told by the people who wrote the code that these aren't flaws in the code that make it susceptible. They're features.
Yeah,
they're features, and I've interviewed them. I had to go out of country to interview them. They've been brought out of the country, and the people who are who did that investigation, who are in this book, are very, very good friends of mine. And so there's a lot more to come out on that. Believe me, you'll get more probably the next month or two.
Colonel,
yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for taking a stand. You're the man in the arena, and it's better to be the man in the arena than not. God bless you. I'm going to be praying for you. You're being persecuted. I really do believe that, and I just encourage everybody in the audience to pray for Colonel Conrad Reynolds. Is there anything they can do to help you, support you? I know you've got this great nonprofit. With the America Voter Integrity Initiative.
Yeah, avii.org. avii.org. If you want to donate to help our mission for paper ballots across the country, we would much appreciate it. I'm not asking for anything for my legal defense fund. I'll handle that. But I do ask if you want to help us get our message out. We really appreciate that.
All right. We appreciate you.
Thanks for
Colonel
having
Reynolds.
me. Take care.
Will, I
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it, sir. Folks, that's all the time that we have for this edition of the Paul Harrell program. We're going to be back here on Monday. God bless everybody out there watching. Have a great weekend.